for somebody to do something. That's Boykin. He's going to go in for a touchdown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Aussie End Zone podcast. Well, welcome back to the Aussie End Zone podcast. We've actually got our first ever NFL player, former player, etc. guest. His name is Jarrett Boykin Jr. He played for the mighty Green Bay Packers, also played for the Carolina Panthers, the Jaguars, also had a stint in the CFL with the Stampeders. Thank you very much for joining us. And what have you been up to this week?
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. But this week, just getting caught up with recruiting. A lot of guys coming on campus over these next couple of weeks. So a lot of compliance paperwork, making sure everything's in order for guys to come over and work out and hopefully have an opportunity to get a scholarship to join our university.
Yeah. Well, and how's things going with, obviously COVID being a thing now over the last 2 years? How has Wingate handled that, with isolations or quarantines or anything like that?
Obviously it had its different ups and downs. I mean, we follow a very strict protocol. We've been doing a great job with it.
That's good.
Last year, during the spring season, it kind of hindered us a bit with the shutdowns and, starting back up.
Yeah, of course.
But we used our time wisely, and the previous season, we put up a great season, a couple plays short of winning the championship, but have all the right things in place and just ready to get better coming this spring.
Hey, that's it. And so let's get started on talking about your career, where it started. College football basically is, it starts down in Pee Wee football, but People want to hear about the college football first. So you played college for Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken. What was it like playing for Virginia Tech as for college football?
Man, being lightly recruited out of high school, Kevin Sherman, he was my wide receiver coach at Virginia Tech. He recruited this area, so came down, met with my family. It felt perfect. But I had a friend, Eddie Whitley. He's actually coaching. He's coaching right now as well. But we played little league ball together, high school ball together, college ball together.
Wow.
So it seemed like awesome. But it seemed like a perfect fit. I remember going up there. They were playing Florida State. All right, and during this game,
big game.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, that was my first big time Power 5 game. And Tyrod Taylor, he ripped the run on a scramble on a 3rd and long. The atmosphere was crazy. Enter the Sandman, the stands was hype. From that moment on, I knew that was the place I wanted to be. I mean, it was 2 hours from home. My parents couldn't commute, not too far. So that's how I ended up there, Virginia Tech. It was the best decision I ever made.
Wow, that's awesome. And then I may be wrong, because I've tried to do as much research as I could, but you went into the NFL to the Jaguars undrafted, or were you drafted? I think I may have crossed the line, like as in with the Googles. There's some said you were drafted, some said you weren't. So I wanted to clear it up with you. Were you drafted or were you undrafted to the Jaguars?
So I was undrafted. My biggest question mark coming out of college was speed. I remember going down to the combine, ran a 4.75 on a laser. Pro day was 4.5, 4.6. But you knew at that point you really had to step in and prove your worth, and then you learn different things from different places. And when I had my opportunity with Green Bay, it was don't hold anything back and just go to work.
You really shone through at Green Bay. And speaking of obviously being a cheesehead myself, I'll ask a few questions about your time at Green Bay first. So what was it like going from obviously undrafted at the Jaguars to more or less powerhouse team that has been for over 100 years such as the Packers?
Man, I remember during that same combine training when we were in Indianapolis, it's this round table where you go in there, you meet with all these different coaches. And I met with one at the round table, and I'm thinking in my head, man, they have Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings. Like
goosebumps right there.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
It's like, where do I even fit in this rotation? Or if there was even a rotation for him, especially being undrafted. But fast forward a couple months later, I mean, God does everything. He has his purpose for everything. I went there on a tryout basis. And first thing when you get in the building, you just realize you see these guys all the time. They're superstars. But at that point, like, you become one of them. And
you have to put the starstruck bit aside sort of thing.
Exactly. And Aaron Rodgers, he does a good job of, like, I feel like he brings a couple wide receivers, especially the young guys, and he just try to let the young guys know, like, hey, you belong. So you build that confidence. You're practicing every day. You gain the trust of the staff, man. And every ball just become ball at that point.
No, that's wicked. It's basically like second nature because you've done it since Little League. So it's
Correct.
no different, just at a bigger stadium, for lack of a better term.
Bigger stadium, more cameras, more media. That's it.
That's it. No, that's fair
Same
enough.
guys you play with in college.
Yeah, and speaking of Aaron Rodgers, how was he, other than that first sort of few weeks, in camp and all that? How was he for you? Because you were a receiver. What was it like playing alongside him, training with him, all that sort of stuff? And what's he like as a player and his football IQ?
Well, obviously the football IQ was there. I mean, one of the best, if not the best, that I've ever seen play. But he's a perfectionist, and he definitely raises the level of everyone around him. And when you're a wide receiver, you want to make sure you're on the same page with him at all times. Like you never want to have any lapse in concentration. And I think I've seen Devontae Adams say this recently in an interview. Was there's two playbooks.
Yes.
There's one that Green Bay give you,
and then there's Aaron Rodgers.
The one in his playback in his head.
Yep.
And he said the same thing to me my rookie year, because you get up there and you get an unfavorable look, different matchups. He can quickly check to something that can get you the ball quicker in a better situation.
Exactly.
So you just have to make sure you're ready for those things. But just being around that guy, man, just teaches you how to be a pro and handle yourself the right way.
Pardon me, sorry, I had to burp. Nice. Honestly, that's wicked. So as you said, not only does he raise the skill level and intensity, but by the sounds, he makes you guys, as in receivers and everyone in general, want to lift, not just feel like you have to lift, which is an amazing quality. But this isn't about Aaron. This is about you and your career. So you went, after the Packers, you went to the Carolina Panthers. And what was it like going from, obviously, Green Bay, Lambeau, all that, over to Carolina?
It was definitely a little bit of change. It was an opportunity for me to get back home. I hadn't been back home in years. We're off to college in Green Bay. Opportunity presents itself, but again, it's up to you to seize that opportunity and rise up to that moment. Learning lessons. I was unfortunately cut after camp, but hey, when you play this game long enough, that thing is inevitable.
Yeah. It's business at the end of the day, which is fair enough. And then you went over, I may be wrong, to the Buffalo Bills. Were you in camp there and you did get a start, or was it just the camp at that point as well?
Yeah, so I transitioned over there after the first of the year. What brought me there was just they're a rising team, and again, that connection with Tyrod Taylor. That was my quarterback in college. That was one of the reasons why I committed to Virginia Tech.
Yep.
And just having that rapport with him, I thought it'll really bode well. But star-studded wide receiver core there as well. They had Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Greg Salas.
Yeah,
had a lot of guys at a time, and some great backs. LaShawn McCoy with Greg Roman's offense. So, man, I left there at that point, and that was pretty much the end of my deal into the Canadian League.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you then went and played for the Calgary Stampeders from 2016 to 2017. And what was, first of all, the difference between the NFL and the CFL? And if you noticed any significant gameplay differences, sort of thing?
So football is football at the end of the day, but then you have the field difference, you have the lineman difference, the running head start as a receiver in the slots, just different small things that you got to account for that can change different type of route running. But what's interesting about that place, I met two of my closest friends over there. I met Mark and Michelle, that was a wide receiver with me, is Sony Michelle's little brother, and Reggie Bagleton. I don't know if you guys remember Reggie Bagleton, but we still keep in touch to this day. But we both tried out for Calgary together. We were roommates, and man, I was pumped for him when he had that opportunity for Green Bay, and I'm glad he made the most of it. And he's doing well. He's back up there in Calgary now.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's honestly really awesome to hear. And during your time as a wide receiver / receiver, what was your favorite route to run?
Man, growing up, one of my favorite players were Dez Bryant because of the physicality, and Michael Crabtree because of the finesse and smoothness of his routes.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of wide receivers, they want to catch the deep ball. So, being able to freeze a guy. Being able to freeze a guy at the line of scrimmage and beat him deep over the top. So go balls, fade balls, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, nice. Honestly, that's awesome. I'm getting goosebumps just hearing that because, I mean, I've never had the chops to try and play full contact gridiron, but I've just started getting into flag football, and to the point where literally when we're done chatting here, I'm going to flag football in about 3 hours. So hopefully I can get the win. But no, that's amazing. My favorite route, as in I'm shocking at receiving. I've currently taken up QB role
Mhm.
because I'm not a great defender, not a great passer, but I can read the route where a player is going to go and I can hit the target. So
Exactly.
far I've been practicing slants, as in practicing with my receivers, been practicing
Yeah.
slants and 5 and ins at the moment because I only started a few weeks ago. And I'm hitting them already. So I thought, okay, let's try a 5 and in, and let's try, something like that sort of thing. And what's it? Going to goal. I can't remember what the route was called. I'll message you on Instagram because I can't remember the name of it, but I can see the route. But it's not about me again. It's about yourself. So we've got a question from Manjot. He couldn't make it to the chat today. So anyone who knows Manjot, he's unfortunately, but we won't hold it against him, a 49ers fan. But he asks, was there any noticeable differences when you went from the Packers to the Panthers?
One thing I noticed, we were big in flexibility in Green Bay. Like we did a lot of days where we took care of our body as far as what we call it regen, massages, therapy, just a real overall make sure we're ready for game day.
Yep.
Carolina, boom, we're pounding the weights. I mean, squatting, loading the racks, and then of course you're going down there to the heat. I'm back in the South, so that's two different things you got to account for. So hydration is a little different, but up there we did a great job of taking care of our bodies, and then down here we were pounding the weights. But if you're just talking about comparing scheme and ball, everything's pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's fair. And we've got a question from one of our listeners / viewers, fans, Isaac D'Alvia. I hope I said your name right, mate. He says, did you feel any pressure when you got your first start and running onto the NFL field? So for the Packers per se, the first time.
Man, that's an interesting question because I think I kind of got away from that pressure field back in college. After a while, you start wanting to prove yourself. So once you get put into that moment, you're like, hey, this is everything I work for. This is
spot. Yeah.
It's like there's no point of holding back right here. Let loose and just play. So you just got to calm your nerves pregame. But once you actually get on that field, man, you don't notice the fans. You're in the stadium with all. You don't notice.
You're in that tunnel vision. You don't really.
You're in that tunnel vision.
Yeah. And
it's
just
it. Like you're just ready to execute, man. Do whatever you've been planning for your whole life. I mean, this is your moment.
That's exactly it. And just going to some fun questions for a bit. Who was the funniest teammate at any of the clubs that you remember just stand out, like prankster, jokester sort of person?
So Josh Sitton, he was a lineman up there at Green Bay. He was actually one of the funniest guys, man. Just listening to him in meetings from time to time. And that's one thing that you notice. Just being around this game, the linemen are usually the funniest ones, man. It's just something about their jokes. But you definitely had a great time listening to things he had to say.
No, that's awesome. Which coach in your life, if from Pee Wee, Little League, all the way up to NFL and CFL, had the most profound impact on your life and your career after and before football?
Man, I hate to leave certain guys out because I've had phenomenal coaches. I had relatives who were coaches.
Wow.
But the one who I hang my hat on right now was Edgar Bennett. He was a wide receiver coach up there in Green Bay at the time. He's with Oakland right now. But he just taught you how to be a pro. The way he broke the game down, he slowed it down for you, simplified it so you can go out there and play fast and make sure you were executing. Like I said, you couldn't be out there on the field if you didn't have Aaron Rodgers' trust. So the way he prepared you for practices, which ultimately prepare you for the games, that's what I try to do to instill in my players in my group now. Just give them what was given to me.
No, that's wicked. And there's a saying amongst professional sports, mainly, especially full contact type professional sports, where the game slows down for you. Have you ever experienced that while playing in the NFL or the CFL or even college?
It definitely slows down. When you first starting out, I mean, you're new to different things. You're new to different routes, techniques, scheme, this, that, and the other. But once you rep it enough, and then now it's like chess pieces. You're starting to see different coverages, different tips in the defense. Like you're the quarterback, you're the brains of the offense. So now you're understanding what's going to happen and what's coming open, so you can throw the ball in a precise location. But once you see it enough, it definitely
it's
slows
like you've got
down.
all the time in the world, even though it's like split seconds, but it's all the time in the world.
Correct. I mean, I think there isn't a defense that Aaron Rodgers hasn't seen. That's why he's so effective in shredding apart defenses.
That's true. And speaking of Aaron Rodgers and the current Packers team, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the playoffs coming up this week. Obviously, they're not in wild card because they got the number 1 seed. How do you think the Packers will go in general in this playoff season?
Man, I think this is the year, to be honest with you. If you just watch the way they're playing, and then the guys started coming back from the injured list.
Oh, did you see that injury return list? It's like,
yeah.
we were winning. Sorry, when I say we, I mean the Packers. They were winning like with their
It's
second. They were winning with the second and third string, and now they've got all these players back. It's like, good luck to anyone.
Yeah, but I honestly think this is it, man. This is the year for him to do it, and I'm rooting for him every step of the way.
Absolutely. And speaking of rooting for a team, what team did you follow in the NFL or college football growing up?
Growing up, originally being from Chattanooga, Tennessee, I was a Titans fan.
Yeah,
this is back when they had Steve McNair. And then slowly transitioned to St. Louis Rams.
Okay.
I mean, you had Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Ricky Prohl, who ended up being one of my coaches in Carolina, which is surreal. Wow. Yeah.
That would have been wow.
Yeah. You just realize how much talent was on some of these teams. But the older I got, I kind of got away from rooting for organization. And then that was just pulling for somebody who I know. I'm rooting for a guy. And where you go, I'm hoping you have much success.
Yeah, no,
but I still have my favorites when certain teams play, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, then who did you not like going up against when you played in the NFL, whether it was because of like a rivalry such as the Vikings and Packers, or whether it was because you knew it was going to be an intense game from start to finish?
Well, over my career in Green Bay, the toughest ones who we knew like kind of stood in our way was the 49ers over my first 2 years. I mean, they always got us in the playoffs. And then the Seahawks. I mean, you're going out there to that stadium. It's very noisy. They had that defense. They're very good up front with a great secondary. And I mean, they proved. I mean, they won a couple of Super Bowl rings, but those were the two that kind of stopped us in the NFC.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, unfortunately they did, but I think, as you said, this is the Packers year. I think if any year we're going to get the closest to it, this is absolutely like within the next 5 years, this is the year, and I'm so excited for it. What was your Netflix or Hulu or whatever website that you used to watch TV shows and movies binge during the COVID lockdowns and isolations over the last few years?
So I'm not really a big TV guy, man. The only time I'm home is if I'm like recharging, because I'm more outdoorsy. But when that did happen, I started watching The Godfather of Harlem, man. It had stuff to do with the mafia, the 5 families up there in New York.
Yep.
I don't know why I got interested in that, but it's
interesting.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's crazy what was going on.
I've got onto Michael Francese's YouTube channel in the lockdown last year, and he was part of one of those 5 families. Yeah. And I'm like, mate, the rabbit hole I went through.
Isn't he doing like YouTube channels with what's his name, Sammy the Bull and stuff?
Yeah, he's doing that with him and a guy called Larry Lawton as well. Man,
it's very real what they were doing. So it was cool.
It's as they say in America, it's no cap, straight up, no cap. That was awful. I apologize for that. So we just mentioned NFL teams and players and all that, but which players in particular did you always root for, even if you were low-key playing against them in a game? Like what it was players that you obviously played at college with or whatever. Yeah. But
well, during that same time, I had crossovers with. I always rooted for Tyrod. I wanted him success. He was at Baltimore at the time. He won a championship with them. Sorry about that. No, Cam Chancellor was the safety over there in Seattle. So, and just matching up with him from time to time, that was pretty cool. But as far as friends within the team, it was definitely younger guys. It was the Brandon Bostic, Miles White, if you remember him, Devontae, and Randall Cobb. And I'm a defensive-minded guy, so now I started hanging out with the Casey Haywards and some of the DBs.
Yeah, nice. And I had a question in my head just then. It was to do with football, obviously. So going through, there we go. That's what it was. Looking back on your, NFL, CFL career, college football, all of that. What is your proudest, achievement or accomplishment from that career?
As cliche as it might say, it's just like battling adversity. I mean, because at any moment, if you're not a draft pick or you're like not one of the highest guys on the totem pole, something's going to happen that's going to kind of make you lose track of the goal. But once you learn how to handle that and persevere and continue on through certain things, it only helps you in life, you know. And now I'm just taking that same mindset that I once had that built me and just
Trying to instill it
redistributing
into,
the youth, the guys up under me, man. So at the end of the day, that's a life worth living, man. Just giving back, and I don't ask for too much or do for too much, man. I'm simple.
That's exactly it. And I guess last question to wrap it up. Any advice, or what advice would you give for high school football kids or college footballers?
Man, continue pursuing that dream. You may hear a million no's, but just believe in yourself. I mean, that one opportunity will come, and when it does come, just seize it. Just because you don't see the road right now, things will happen for you in your future. You just got to trust the process and keep working.
Absolutely. I'll stop the recording there.